Lower Johnson Lake, Councilman Sabat.
I think, to summarize, I think council is in agreement that a solution has to be reached and has to be reached quickly based on some of the information that we got. Is that I've heard, and council heard that the pipe under the road needs to be repaired simply to sustain traffic back and forth on the road from Timberline folks, and that's something important. The other side of it is that we need the lake fixed, we need dam installed so we can get the water at a certain level without any further delay. Without any additional cost to the city, without a whole lot of cost to the homeowners association. And therefore, we spoke to the engineer from Clark Patterson Lee. He had given us his opinion. And I think our city manager had captured a pretty well summary. I'd like for him to be able to read to us what the summary was.
Just read the summary, Mike.
You don't have to
Summarize.
read it. You can summarize it if you want to read it word for word. Sure. Please.
The initial issue that we addressed was the current condition of the 24-inch pipe under Timberline Drive. The engineer stated that the pipe was not in imminent danger of failure and that a deliberate schedule of replacement, not unduly delayed, such as with the current period of inaction, and completed within 12 to 18 months would be acceptable. During that discussion, we talked about the three main options for repairing the pipe: the slip lining, the cured in place liner, and the full replacement. We touched on a little bit of the other various issues that have come up in our discussions over time, including dealing with the HOA, potential insurance claims, the option of the city proceeding unilaterally on pipe repair. I'd say I wrote in here, and I still believe consensus that probably was not reached on those items, but I think the results were pretty much as follows. Partnership with the HOA to coordinate all repair work at one time would be preferable. It does not make sense from a timing or engineering perspective to repair the 24-inch pipe as a single separate action, since it cannot be utilized until the whole system is repaired and tied back in. No water is currently flowing through the pipe, and so its condition for the time being is static. Mike asked that for another small group meeting, and talking to Pat today, I understand that her best time is next Monday, when a lot of people will be off work, so we will set that meeting up with, I guess, your executive committee, Pat,
Yes.
and the three council members who were at this meeting for next Monday. I'll get a time out to everybody. And I also asked if there had been a response to Mr. Witz's letter that went out to a lot of residents in the area, and learned that there had not been a response at this point in time. That kind of summarizes everything.
In addition to that, as far as I understand from the folks that do this for a living, if we have issued, if we came up with a resolution of some sort that says, let's fix it today, it would take roughly 3 months, maybe longer, before anything is put up. Until the bidding goes out, until the contractor shows up, until the concrete is poured, or whatever, if there's concrete. We're looking at 3 months, maybe longer. So if the order has been in place last week and has been issued to a certain individual, from that week on, we're looking at minimum of 3 months before anything is really done. But I think this is what I learned. Things don't happen overnight. It takes a while for an engineer of this sort to be completed. Maybe I misunderstood it, but I know it takes a long time.
I think to put the specs together and advertise and get a contractor in here, it would take 60 to 90 days to do it right. And from there, it depends on which of the repair options you choose. They could be mobilized and have that liner in place pretty quickly. Slip lining would be a little longer, and then when it comes to full pipe replacement, which I would never recommend, it would take months. And you don't know what you're going to run into there.
So the time equation has to be thrown in here, in any solution that we decide on.
I'm prepared to present a resolution this evening that I spoke with the 4 other members of the council. I believe that Mr. Bob tonight has a reservation. Everything that's in my resolution was discussed at length with all 4 of the other council people. Basically, this resolution just puts into formal form exactly what we feel is the next step, or what needs to be done, and where we are at this point.
There was no resolution on tonight's agenda, so
I'm going to amend
that would be
the agenda.
improper for you to amend the agenda to add something that wasn't on a published agenda. That would be a violation of the Georgia Open Meetings Act. This is a controversial issue with the residents of Summit Chase have a right to know about any resolution you're putting forward, and that was not advertised tonight. You can amend the agenda based on our charter to change the order of the agenda, but not to add topics.
I'm going to add it to the agenda.
That will be improper, and I'll rule you out of order at the appropriate time.
As in Mr. Howard's words, I'm good with that.
Okay.
We can be meeting.
If you want to violate the Georgia Open Meetings Act, then that is on you.
Yes, ma'am.
We have that on videotape. Moving on then to the Gwinnett County Sidewalk Project on North Road.
We have something else on videotape too, and it didn't matter, so it really doesn't matter.
North Road. Oh, I'm sorry, City Manager report.
I think, Mr. Witz, you wanted to ask, I was hoping to have a few minutes on agendas just to give you an update on what may have occurred in the last couple of weeks, plus an update on different projects. I was just hoping 5 or 10 minutes, if I could just have a spot on every agenda, I would appreciate that.
You want it on the open meeting or on the?
I'd like to have it in the open meeting, so the public could speak to the public, answer questions maybe. Nothing, I'm not looking to take up much time, but I was hoping that it would help when I have everyone's attention. It would be nice just to have a few minutes. I'll let you know ahead of time what the topic will be and try to provide some background information. And if you could see fit to do that.
Sidewalk project.
We have been notified by the county that there is a fairly lengthy sidewalk project, I guess, John, under design right now?
No. The way I understand it, they have a sidewalk project in place. Their engineers are out there doing survey work now. And it will run on the east side of North Road. So if you were going up North Road from downtown, it would be on your right. From Fars to Wisteria, or Wisteria to Fars. That is now entering the preliminary design phase. Low Engineers is handling the work, and it's being funded out of the 2009 SPLOST. That was from John Ray, who's the Division Director of Pre-Construction.
And there are Low Engineers, they're the ones with the zebra trucks. You've probably seen them out there doing the surveying. So that's a significant sidewalk project that is funded through the county SPLOST proceeds.
How far down is it going on the road?
It goes from Wisteria to Fars.
It'll tie into the little piece of sidewalk section there on this end, on the Wisteria end.
Any questions for Mr. Davis?
No information about sidewalks on 78 property near the South Gwinnett High School.
No.
If we could have an executive session, we could give you an update on that intersection. I think that probably is worth the point of where that's an executive session topic.
You're talking about the intersection, he's talking about going down to Summit Chase.
Okay.
Cops refinancing,
We have, no, Councilman Sabag has been involved in this, this item. I know it is, it started before I arrived in September, but we have been very fortunate with the status of the market, and that it has really not turned away from us. We also have benefited from waiting, as Mr. Camp, who is here to give us an update on where the market stands and where we would stand should we go to market. It's something that I have a very real sense of urgency that we need to act on as quickly as possible. I know that we were looking at maybe waiting on the lake situation to resolve, to add new money into the issue. We still would have another 30 or 40 days probably, Bill, to decide that if we initiated the process. But I'm very familiar with Bill and his company. I'm familiar with his thought process. He looks out for his clients very well. And I would highly recommend that if we proceed with Bill. And I'm going to turn it over to Bill for the update.
Thank y'all. I prepared a little update summary. Y'all have seen this information. Man, I can't mind passing. One of the things that we talked about was that the 2003 financing, what we call a COPS transaction, or certificates of participation, is first callable July 1 of 13. And we talked about the difference between an advance refunding and a current refunding, and Mr. Sanders hit it right on the head. One of the things that by waiting we've gotten to is now you're looking at a current refunding, which is a good thing because reinvestment rates are very low. So if we closed a bond issue a long time in advance of that first call date, we weren't going to make a lot of money in the escrow. If you would, flip to this first page, page 1. This shows you your principal and interest payments. The average rate's about 4.25%, and payments occur July 1 of 13 all the way out through July 1 of 23, so 10 and a half years. Page 2. This is a chart that just shows you the highs and lows and the average of where municipal rates are. Our little area where we stand today is this red line at the bottom. And all this is telling you is most of the time rates are a lot higher than where they are now. I know you know that. You're familiar with what's going on in the economy, but sometimes a picture is worth 1,000 words, you know. Page 3. Your 2003 transaction was structured to be a lease. A lease is well, it is a debt, but legally it's not a debt. It's subject to annual appropriation. So in theory, y'all put it in the budget every year to make your payment. And so the security to the investor is this building. I know you know you're not going to walk away from your building, but that does pose what we call an annual appropriation risk. You also set aside about $500,000 from bond proceeds back in '03. We call it a debt service reserve fund, and it's just a rainy day fund. What happens if we didn't appropriate or something bad happened? You've got 1 year's worth of payments set aside to pay bondholders. And like I said, the average rate right now on what's left is about 4.25. You could refinance your COPS transaction with another lease, but a better mechanism to do it is to do an intergovernmental contract, which provides a full faith and credit taxing pledge. In other words, you don't have annual appropriation risk. An investor has a stronger security, and for something like this City Hall that you're not going to walk away from anyway, I just think it makes a lot more sense. Also, I think that you ought to take that debt service reserve money, it's about $500,000, It's sitting in an account right now, probably making 0.1%. We can use it in the refunding and pay off about $500,000 of the debt.
You just pay down the debt.
That's right.
Private refinancing, it's a down payment.
It's your money. I don't wanna call it savings, but I think it would do you more good to pay off part of the debt early.
Well,
than
spending
have
that
it.
500,000, if you look at doing that versus if you don't do it, what it's gonna cost you over like 10 years, that's the number
Right.
you need to look at.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And then, right now, where rates are today, and again, Mr. Sanders said it, you've been fortunate. Rates hadn't gone up tremendously, and we're looking at a rate of about 1.89%. Page 4. All right. I think that you could close a transaction, I know you could close a transaction if you decided to, in advance of the July 1 payment date. And I believe you ought to stay in the same term, the same final payment date of 2023. And so that's what you're seeing on page 4. Annual savings of a little less than $100,000. I think that's the main thing to take away, that you're freeing up about $100,000 in your budget every year moving forward, or lowering taxes $100,000 a year. There's some confusing math on here, but let me walk you through it. If we close a transaction, say May or June, you've already levied taxes to make that July 1 payment. I think it makes a lot of sense to use that in the debts, paying down the debt. You don't have to. You don't have to do that, but I think it makes a lot of sense. That's that first transfer figure, or what I'm showing as a negative there, of $408,000. That's just, in essence, taking the money you've got in an account today and moving it over in advance of that July 1 payment date. Also,
Well, and if I'm right, then, taking that payment and then the savings, or the reserve amount, would be really almost $1 million, you'd be reducing your debt.
that's right, and I'm showing you your savings, but I'm subtracting what is already your money from my ultimate calculation here for why it's a good thing to do. So then we take the numbers that are left, the savings, and we apply present value to that. That just means that $1 today is worth more to you than $1 10 years from now. And the net effect is, after the escrow, after cost of issuance, everything, the city makes the value, has saved $350,000, $349 present value. That's the benefit of refinancing, basically cutting the rate in half. And the reason that that's a big number to me is we always tell you, if that present value savings, when you divide it by the principal amount, you can look at the prior bond issue or you can look at the new bond issue, you save 3% or greater, that's a good refunding. And this is, 8% or 10%, no matter whichever bond size you look at.
That's good on steroids.
Yes, sir. It's better than twice as good as what we normally would be telling you to do.
This is an NPV for 10 years?
Yes, sir. Then the next page, options. I'm assuming you're still using your sinking fund money, you're using your debt service reserve, but, times are tough, and what if we could push some principal out? We're not changing the payment dates, we're keeping the same final payment. I'm just delaying some principal in those early years and giving you see where those arrows are pointing, larger savings up front. As you notice, the PV numbers stay about the same. So really all we'd be doing in this case is just helping in the next couple, 3 years with budget issues. Page 6, this is just so you can see what the payments look like. This is the level debt scenario, or level savings in each year. You might notice in the coupon column, we have 2% and 3%. You say, well, wait a minute, how can you have 189 as your rate? We are selling 2s and 3 coupons in this scenario because that's the way you trade bonds, round increments. And then we price them so that you've got yields out to the 100th%. It's just that's the way it's done. And when we have a coupon rate, if you look at the next page, page 7, when we have a coupon rate greater than the yield that the investor gets, that means they're paying more than face value. So some of this sources and uses of funds, you'll see principal, reoffering premium, that's what I'm talking about, that $158,000. You're actually generating more than face value, above par, you might say. Then again, your transfers from dollars that you've set aside in your budget already to make that July 1 payment, which again, you have the option whether or not to utilize this in the refund. You in essence could sell more debt, increasing the bond issue to 3.8. You could take that 400 and use it for other things if you needed to. The debt service reserve fund of 500,000, you got to use that. That was proceeds from a tax exempt financing back in '03, and then deposit to the construction fund, estimated costs. None of this has been priced out yet, but we know, because we know generally speaking what the costs are going to be, and that's where all the dollars come from to refinance your lease transaction for the city hall. And then the last page, I'm not going to belabor it, but we are in a new day and age with municipal securities, and I need to, in writing, as of last August, I'm supposed to clarify to you all that we are proposing to be an underwriter or a placement agent on the bonds, where we buy something from the city and turn around and sell it to investors, and we would sell that at a little bit higher fee, and that's how we would be compensated, as opposed to a financial advisor who gives you, like an attorney, gives you advice, works for you, gets paid on an hourly basis. My advice is do this, but I'm also coming to you in the capacity of an underwriter of a
You just explained
debt.
capitalism.
That's right. Yes. Well, I have to do it in writing now. So.
If it wasn't Bill, it would be somebody else.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Campbell?
When do we start?
When you all
What
tell
do we
us
need to do to start?
Okay, well, the URA is the conduit that we've been discussing using. The first decision is, do you want to refinance this as a lease or as a URA bond issue, like I am suggesting? You have the URA in existence. The URA limits have been drawn, and this would be a urban redevelopment in the sense that this is the inside the URA. It follows suit that we're improving within the URA. We would have a process where we begin collecting data about the city to do an offering document, like a prospectus for a stock. So we call it a preliminary official statement. We would even get a rating, so a third party would come in and tell you what they think your credit quality is. And then we would be able to, with a rating and an offering document in hand, price bonds to folks like you're seeing in the room. We could have a limited offering where we find one or multiple investors, big institutional types, and where we don't have to go through the ratings process. But our experience lately is we're going to save more money doing the public issue route. We can look at the private placement route and confirm that, but I brought you kind of the A to Z, the most elaborate form here. To do the offering document is going to take a little while, but you know, it shouldn't take but a few weeks. We don't think the market's going to go away from us, but obviously the faster we move, it gives you more options. And then if y'all were in a situation where there was a new money type project to add to this, it would make a lot of sense. Those costs associated with the refunding would be basically spread out over a larger bond issue. So that's economies of scale. If you got to that point, we could add it in at any time.
So Butch, what do you need from us?
Just to go ahead. I've done about 20 of these things, and it makes perfect sense. We want to go away from the lease, and we definitely, you're gonna hear a good audit report from Jimmy Whitaker tonight. I have no doubt that.
Do you just need consensus of council to move forward, or what do you need?
You bet.
We need to put it on we need an actual vote to approve this on a future agenda.
You would, in the future, approve a bond ordinance or a bond resolution. You always have the final.
But not for this step.
No, sir. No, I didn't mean that.
We're ready to go here.
When everything's done.
With the POS, oh yeah.
Yes, sir.
And the URA would have to.
Yes, the URA would adopt the resolution, which has the final numbers in it. And then you all adopt what's called the intergovernmental contract. Just saying, you know, like you're doing now, you're gonna make the payments on their behalf.
And we'll make this presentation to the URA so they understand fully the process.
Well, I mean, speaking for me, I'd say move forward.
All right, thank you.
Eric, anything to add to your update, 2 minutes?
No, I'll leave most of it as written. The pages that you see the pictures of, about a year ago, we started using a customer management relationship program with our businesses. I won't go into those details. And you see some points there. The one thing, Mayor, that I would like input from you and council on is the project manager luncheon now is around the corner. That would be next Thursday. We do have 6 project managers at the state level that have RSVP'd, as well as Kelly Brownlow, a VP and project manager at the Gwinnett Chamber. I have only one RSVP at this point from you and council.
LCI?
We're just moving ahead with our new program manager. I think you got a copy of her letter, which verified that we are going to be eligible for 80% of the full cost, as long as we stay under the overall budget number, which we're going to do. So this is good news. I've already prepared a letter asking for a approval of a sole source bid on the lighting fixtures from the federal highway folks. Crystal's helping push that through. So I mean, everything is moving right now.
All right, we'll reconvene at 7:30.
Are we gonna have an executive session?
That's up to you.
Yes. Wait, an executive session.
Good. Update you on the